Evening.
Here she is. How's the COVID lady?
I've recovered.
Yeah. Oh, good, good. You missed such a good day on Saturday.
Oh, don't upset me.
FOMO, FOMO. No, it was good. It was good. It's good to
Good.
see
I'm
everyone
glad.
again as well. Yeah. Hi, Alex. You all right, mate?
Hey mate, yeah, I'm not too bad. I think I've got coronavirus, but I'll be all right.
No. Oh, see, Lou even was spreading it, and she wasn't even there. It must be she's spreading it through the WhatsApp group. Hi, David. Is he there? No, not jumped off the bridge, is he? No. Matt, how you doing, mate? You okay?
Hi, man. Very well, thanks. And yourself?
Yeah, yeah, getting there. Getting there. It's been a long day today. Zoom since
Yeah.
8 o'clock this morning. So yeah, looking forward to put my feet up after this one. Uh
Mm.
we'll give everyone another 5 minutes. I think there was something like 18 people have registered, so we'll wait
Yeah,
a
hi
little.
Paul. David, yeah, I'm here. I'm actually driving, so I've just pulled
Okay,
over, but
mate.
I am listening. So if I'm not interactive, it's because I'm still driving.
No problem, mate. You stay
All right,
safe.
mate.
All right
Thank
then,
you.
mate. Cheers. So, Lou, what's going on then? How are we getting on this week? Much going on?
Well, obviously being back to work, I had a lot of catching up to do, so it's been very
Mhm.
manic at work. But
Yeah.
I'm currently selling my grand's house and I've just conducted two viewings earlier. And it's looking really promising because I've got about 16 inquiries
Oh,
and
nice.
loads of bookings, loads of viewings. So I'm quite pleased about that.
That's
But
good.
yeah, I still haven't done my poll. I need to do my poll.
Polls. Yeah. Get your poll. And how are you getting on,
I need to
Alex?
do that.
Yeah, not too bad. I managed to change the company name, change the SIC code, and then I was just waiting for the logo to be done. It's just come back tonight, so
You had it
made
redrawn, did you?
yeah, made the social. So once that's sorted, I can crack on with that.
Perfect. Perfect.
Yeah.
And what are you up to, Matt? Are you had a busy week?
Yeah, we've been finishing a few refurbs. So
Nice.
we've got a property that we're completing on next week, which that's why I'm sort of on this call really
Yeah.
to find more about social housing. We've got a potential provider, but yeah, here to learn from the start really and see how it's done.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Matt's doing really well in the social housing bit. He's pretty busy. I think you got what, 5 on the go at the moment, Matt? 5, 6 sites on the go now?
We've got five in the pipeline, yeah. So one
Yeah.
one should be completing tomorrow, but we know how that goes. And
Yeah.
then yeah, three others over the next sort of 4 weeks. So yeah, hopefully they all drop in on time.
Yeah. Well, on time is the thing with everything, right? Completion, surveys, everything. It's just property full of delays. Hey, Jace, you okay?
Yes, fine. I couldn't get the ID on the computer, so I had to come on my
I was
phone.
good with. Okay, no probs. Hey, Paul.
All right, same here. I couldn't get on my computer, so I'm on the phone.
I
Yeah.
will get round to responding to your message today, mate. It's just been a manic one.
I thought so. It was a bit quiet everywhere today. I think everyone was manic.
Yeah, yeah. It's good manic though. It's good manic.
Oh, that's
Cool.
nice.
Right. I think what I'll do is we'll just crack on, and as and when people join, I'll let them in. So let's kick off. Cool. Everyone see the screen? Yeah.
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 Wicked.
Yeah.
Cool. So this I'm looking forward to this one because social housing is definitely. Oh, I'm just going to mute everyone quickly. Cool. So social housing is definitely something that I'm really interested in, and Matt and I have had many a discussion about what he's doing. So it'd be really good to hear a bit more about it. So I know a lot of you are familiar faces, but for those that don't know me, and if you're not fed up of hearing about who I am and what I do, I run a business called Casita Properties. It's a off-market buy-to-let selling service. So we sell landlord to landlord. Doing that now for 4 years, going really well. I'm also the co-founder of Peak Performance Events, which is a London-based entrepreneur and networking company. An event. It's we're a year and a half in, and it's bigger and better than we ever thought. 250 entrepreneurs in a room. Next one's November the 2nd. And then I'm the director of the Training Made Simple Academy. Training Made Simple Academy incorporates sales training made simple, property training made simple, and also social media training made simple. And they're the three things that I think you need in order to have a successful property business. Without the sales training, then you're going to find it hard to negotiate deals. Without the property knowledge, then you're going to find it hard to find the deals. And without the social media knowledge, you're going to find it hard for people to know who you are, what you do, and how they can work with you. So again, that's what we do. Now, this particular session tonight is part of the success community that we run. And the success community. Oh, hi, Andy. I'm just going to mute you, mate.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right, mate. I was mid-flow, mate. But yeah, the success community is a closed WhatsApp group that we run, full of members. We talk about accountability, goals. We talk about what we're looking to achieve in the week. We support each other on social media posts and everything like that. It also includes 2 guest webinars each month. Last month we had Pete Komalafe, who is a financial expert on the BBC and Channel 4, talking about a better relationship with money. And we also did a skill clinic, which was all about learning how to use Canva in order to just make your brochures and everything like that look a lot more professional. Obviously, this month we're going with Matt, who's going to be our guest speaker, talking all about social housing. And later on this month, we also have, and I'm really excited about this one, a rent to service accommodation expert who's got over 50 units across Chester. So again, if it's something you're interested in, it's all included in the success community. And that's all for the mere price of £49 a month. So if anybody is interested to join that's not already part of it, then give the QR code a scan, or you can message me after. Right. So, Matt, who is Matthew?
That's a great question.
My
name
still
is
asking yourself, maybe.
Yeah. I'm coming to some sort of conclusion myself, but I'll give you what I've got so far. I live in South Manchester. I grew up here. So this is where I also operate the business, mostly around the Northwest, predominantly focused on Greater Manchester, Cheshire, and Preston. Preston just being north of Manchester. Born and raised here. I actually spent 8 years in the States. Played basketball all my life. Went over there playing basketball, studying. It was a really good time, and that's where I actually got into business. I started online business out there whilst I was at university, and sort of made my headway and a lot of lessons amongst that. And then also got into financial markets and account management around different alternate assets. And that was sort of my introduction into asset management, understanding the sort of game that we're in with money and property and business, and how it all works from a standpoint of the different lending criterias around different asset classes and all of that stuff, which then I came back 5 years ago to the UK, and I set up my business in property, and I've been sourcing since 2018, which brings us up to today. So if you want to just move on slightly, Paul. Yeah, perfect. And the next one. Yeah, so with sourcing partners, we have sourced many different properties over the years. I really cut my teeth on standard properties, your buy-to-lets, your flips, 2-3 bed terraces and semis, and then moved more up to HMOs and small commercial conversions. And these were both source deals and buying myself as well. So at this moment in time, we do offer a full turnkey service, which is sourcing, project management, and also letting and leasing. And much more so over the past few years of getting into the supported living world, the social housing world, the care world. There's a lot of different words that are put onto this particular sector and niche of property is a lot of the criteria definitely changes what lending you can get, the tenant profiles, etc., which I'll talk about more at the end of this. Just want to skip on Paul. So for us, and also my own portfolio, it's a lot to do with, you know, the old cliche of making money when you buy, but it really is true in property. And so I'm going to talk about supported living and social housing, but still in the mind frame of coming at it as investors. If you're sourcing for yourself, you might be sourcing for clients. You know, even with this niche, the numbers have got to stack, whether I'm purchasing it or I'm working on behalf of a client. So these numbers are a little bit more now. So we've sourced £5 million worth of property for an agreed purchase price of just under 3.4 million. So a lot of equity built into those deals to get those returns, to get that sort of capital within the asset already locked in when you buy. And that will change, you know, depending on criteria and return of investment for ourselves, and then also the clients that we're working with. But understanding those numbers yourself, even within your own portfolio, if you are interested in sourcing, you know, to be a ninja with the numbers is gonna help you with your own properties and sourcing. And obviously, if you're working on behalf of clients, even more so, you want to make sure you're tracking everything and know everything sort of to a T, especially when it comes to securing assets at certain prices, and then also, you know, what they're going to be worth once done up.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Some more.
Well,
Oh, we're at the end. We're not done yet, Paul. I've got some more for you.
there we go.
So one of the big reasons we moved to supported living in this way is really what we were finding after COVID, with the market being super hot after that first stint, and then things are opened back up. Obviously, hard to get builders. The prices of refurbs were shooting up, and even energy prices were obviously going up. So there's a lot of different factors that you were playing with, especially if you were operating HMOs, if you own them, or if you were, you know, helping run them. There was a lot of sort of eating of the profit of the bottom line. And we'd done HMOs ourselves and professionals in our portfolio. And it was really looking at how we could maximize the assets within our portfolio, and also where's actually the best time served for our sourcing business, and what is making sense in terms of stacking deals and building a pipeline. Because obviously for us, we're wanting to transact on multiple properties at a time and keep a really healthy pipeline and keep things flowing in. So I actually got approached by a supported living provider on a certain property that we were sourcing in late 2021. And that's when I started to ask questions and sort of understand how this model works. And it was almost taking me one webinar just to go over the different sets of organizations and different type of support and care that you can get in terms of the organizations that, you know, that you can meet with, and depending who their tenants are that they're looking after, and also the assets that they need to carry out their service. So for this, and what I'm going to talk about is really what I know, which is supported living. When we talk about supported living, I'm also talking about touch point care. So that is a lighter form of care, which can be anywhere sort of between 1 to 5 hours a week, depending on that individual. So you're not looking at deep care in a sense, where that might be a teenager with autism, for example, that might need a lot more complex care and a structure around that individual to make sure that, you know, he's functioning in life. These individuals are able-bodied people, and they just need a helping hand in many different scenarios, but, you know, they are sort of functioning members of the community. They just need a little bit of a helping hand, and that's the differentiation in the sense of touchpoint care versus other complex support, which for our properties, for example, they don't need a live-in carer, which also, if there is a living carer, changes everything when it comes to lending, when it comes to insurance. There'll be a whole different set of lenders which will be on that particular criteria. So with social housing and support and care, one of the big things that you should do on one of the due diligence pieces is on that finance piece, because the majority of investors will want to refinance out at some point. So it's making sure you can hop onto a product that is right for that particular type of house and type of organization that you're working with. And there's some due diligence points. Sorry, just go back one slide, Paul. The due diligence points are important, and this is a big one for you to take away, because this is really the start of it, because you want to shore up your exit or know you might have something good lined up really by the due diligence that you do. And that'll come down to organization type. So are they a charity? Are they a private company? Are they a CIC? And understanding that type of structure. A registered provider, so an RP, registered provider, is a organization which is on a government list. So you can go and search that on the UK Gov website, and it brings up the list of registered providers in the Northwest. These are usually quite big companies. Either they're covering quite a big area of England or the UK, or they might be nationwide. And you can do some due diligence in that way. And also some organizations also partner with these registered providers and in a sense sit under their umbrella. And that's a way of understanding their structure, and what type of organization they are. Staff to tenant ratios. For us, we are very much in the niche of 4 to 6 bedroom HMOs. So there is certain ratios between support workers and tenants. And it's important to know that. They're like anything, when it becomes a bit of a buzz, and I don't know how long some of you have been around property or social media of the property world, but supported living is definitely a bit more of a buzzword the past couple of years, and there's a lot more of content being created around it, and I think people getting involved with it. And it's really important to understand to do that DD, because as soon as more money comes into any industry and more eyes and ears, there can be certain fly-by-night companies that you need to make sure you're partnering with the right kind of organizations that are going to have longevity. You can check their financials, go on the Gov website, check their company. And also ask for references. Who are they working with? How long have they had properties for? Can they give testimonials to that? Understanding the tenant profile, which I've spoke about, and then LHA rate. So local housing allowance. Between different councils and different boroughs, you'll have different allowances. It's important to understand that, and then also if they get certain exemptions of those rents. So that can be depending on the support they give, depending on the care they give, they might be able to increase on local housing allowance, which you want to do in a sense your questions up front, understanding the rents that they can give to be able to know if you can stack that property and if it makes sense. Perfect. Going from there, Paul. And then one of the big reasons we got into this is there are a lot of benefits with working with great providers, and especially when it comes to HMOs, which is really what we focus on with the providers that we work with. So they'll pay monthly, and whether they deal with all the tenant management, so there's zero voids. They pay whether people are in or out, or people are transitioning in or out. That doesn't necessarily matter to us, and the lease that they sign. Minimal maintenance, so it is an IRI lease, and depending what providers you work with, they will sign internal repairing and insuring leases, and sometimes, again, depending on the provider, they'll sign fully repair and insuring leases, which is much more of a commercial style lease of, let's say, a large factory or something, which a company is leasing. But a lot of the time, if you're signing in anywhere sort of between 3 and 5 year leases with these providers, it will be internal repairing and insuring. They won't necessarily look after absolutely everything, but a lot of the general maintenance, like the day-to-day stuff, they take care a lot of, which for HMOs is really the biggest part of the maintenance. If it's things like structural or the roof, those are things that we still will look at. So again, it's always about looking at the lease, looking at the schedule of maintenance, and what are you liable for and what are they liable for. They'll take care of council tax and utility bills. Obviously, again, that's a huge bottom line cost for HMOs. So when we actually run the numbers on a lot of our professional HMOs and supported living HMOs, the supported living in terms of net profit per month is coming out ahead, because a lot of those costs are maintained by the provider. Probably about funding, a lot of the funding around this is, local councils, government pots around supported living accommodation and care for these individuals. And the touch point care aspect is a lot of people sort of catching them in the first net before they sort of really spiral. And that's what this type of support is really geared to. And obviously there's a huge amount of saving for local councils and governments and different organizations, sort of catching people before, they really go into a certain potential period of their life. Competitive rents, and that's all about, again, doing that research and due diligence up front. And it is purpose and profit. I've seen some amazing stories over the last few years of, people going into the houses and, getting jobs, becoming, members of the community again, and then hopping onto, their own flat or their own 2-bed house. And some of them have got HGV licenses and have got new careers, and it is really, really good to see. I know sometimes that can also be a bit of a cliche, the whole purpose and profit, but it is awesome to see some of the stories and work that these people do, because I'll be honest, it's not easy, the support work that they do. And from working with these companies for a couple of years now and passing over close to 100 rooms at this point in the pipeline, it's been really good to see across the portfolio. And then for us, we also are able to sign pre-exchange leases. So this is really more so because of the volume that we do with these providers, and we build pipelines and we pass over multiple assets to them. So it's all about sort of negotiation and what you can deliver to them. Delivering good stock consistently is obviously the aim of the game. And this will allow you to potentially sign pre-exchange leases. So what this really means is we sign a lease before we exchange and complete on the property. That's not the head lease, it's the pre-exchange lease, which the head terms go into. So even before we've bought the property, we've got the rental agreed, we've got what they're going to be liable for, what we're going to be liable for, and an estimated handover date. So basically your heads of terms are all signed, and then the agreed head lease is also attached into that. That's huge for us. It's huge for our own business and our portfolio, but really, really huge for our sourcing business and obviously servicing clients in that way, to give them a pretty sure exit on the other end with these head terms, that have already been negotiated and we know we're going to move on to. But again, that isn't always the case with each provider. That does come with, relationship building and really putting that time in. But it is a really nice piece that can happen with certain providers and certain people that you partner with. Go on from that slide. So this is just an example of a deal. I just wanted to give you some numbers around the sort of supported living aspect. So with this probably doesn't look much from the front, but this is actually turned into a 6-bed HMO. This was a three-bed terrace over 4 floors, and had a good basement that actually went out into the garden as well. This was actually a really strong deal, which was sourced in January 2022, when the interest rates were still very good. We got a 3.8% mortgage on this 6-bed, which you would absolutely have no chance of getting now. The good old days, which nobody tells you that you're in. But if you go over one slide, Paul, just the headline numbers on this, we're actually able to buy this at a higher purchase price because it really didn't need much work doing. It wasn't a HMO before, but the configuration was actually quite close. So we only had to put up a couple of stud walls. It was purchased for 179. The fees and then the refurb came to just under 45,000. And then the net cash flow for this one was £1,600. One of the big reasons of that was because the mortgage was so competitive, and this property was worth 240. We got this under offer because it had fallen through 3 times, and they were moving to a new build, and they had to get it through, or they were sort of gonna lose their deposit that they'd put down on the new build. So it was much in terms of situation, and it was a decent property that it wasn't like run down, but again it was the vendor's situation, which when you're sourcing properties is usually the biggest factor. And then just one more case study, which was a smaller property. This was in Preston, and this was turned from a 2-bed terrace to a 4-bed HMO, which was much more extensive, interestingly, than this property. And depending, obviously, how you're sourcing, how you're stacking, the interest rates that you can get is going to obviously dictate what returns you're going to get and the purchase price that you can offer. Are we having some technical difficulties? There we go, perfect. So with this, you'll also see that it's quite vanilla. Everything we do with supported living is clean, fresh, practical, and vanilla. So on the right hand side, you'll see that the bed isn't dressed. So they actually come in and dress the property. The provider does. So we sort of give it them as a furnished shell, if you will. And they come in and they do their own dressing and how they like the properties and the welcome packs that they give the tenants and that kind of thing. So very clean, very fresh, very simple, but it works. And that also is big in terms of spend and spec. And it's really important to understand the spec that they do require. And again, that will change depending on tenant profile, depending on the type of support and care that's going into that property. But for us, we sort of build that up front. What they want, what they like, how they like the signage to be, the safety elements. Some of them have their own sort of quirks and tweaks that they like. So it's important to really understand the spec, and obviously for the end user, because for these, they're taking them on a 5-year repairing lease. So anything and it goes wrong with the door, or they have to replace some kind of light or whatever it may be, it needs to sort of be that it's easy for them to replace, and they can get it from, let's say, Screwfix, B&Q, Argos. It needs to be that it's not doing bespoke things for a high-end professional HMO, for example. It's all about being practical. And then the numbers for this one, if we flip over to the next slide, this is a 4-bed. So this property was worth between sort of 150, 160. So some nice equity built in, but it needed a full refurb. We actually took out half of the ground floor on this because the joists were rotten, and we did an insulated hard floor. So this came in at 57,000, and also the professional fees, which were some of our fees as well. But it still cash flowed £900, over £900 as a 4-bed, and that's net. That's after property insurance, mortgage, etc. So it's still a really strong return on capital, which is where we typically source these particular type of properties, sort of anywhere between 15 and 20%. So as you can see, even with the supported living model, where we are with the 4 to 6 bedrooms, you can see that you can still stack them very, very competitively when it comes to the net cash flow that you're able to get. So for our model, and that's not necessarily to say this is how everybody should do it. We flip on to the next slide. We're looking for really certain types of size of properties, like anybody who is developing HMOs. But we can usually do it where we like what we call the fluidity of the asset. So when I say that, I sort of mean it can have multiple exits. If you do a 6-bed, and it's all en suite, you're really tying yourself into the HMO model, which is not a bad thing. But for us, we like it that it could maybe be a HMO, it could be service accommodation, it could be a buy-to-let, it could be flipped to an investor or a family. And that obviously takes it configuring it a certain way in terms of the bedrooms and the bathrooms and the kitchen and that kind of thing. So you've got a sort of standard property that we would look for. This is a mid-terrace with a nice double-story extension at the back, which is sort of our bread and butter and exactly what we look for, and sort of really understanding the square meterage of what we can do with a 4, 5, and 6 bed, and knowing how we can chop and change it. For example, if it hits 110 square meters, there's a good chance we can turn that into a 5 to 6 bed. So we go into the next slide, you'll see that this is a 6-bed, 3-bathroom, and this is how we sort of chopped and changed it. With certain councils, you'll have different criteria, and it's important that you work with both the council and the provider in terms of the size of bedrooms, the size of the kitchen diner space. For some areas, you'll need a 15 square meter kitchen diner for a 6-bed. For others, you need 18, some others you need 21. So it's really understanding the local council's building regs around this. And crucial, obviously, if you're sourcing for yourself and obviously for clients, but it's also crucial for the provider, because you still need to keep to the building regulations and standards and space standards of the council for them to take the property on, because they'll be liaising with the council in terms of, we're taking this property, here's the floor plans, this is what it's going to look like. At the end, it's likely that the HMO compliance officer or the environmental health officer of the council will come around, and make sure that this property is to standard so it can be passed over. So that's, for us, that fluidity of the asset is huge. It creates a lot of options. Obviously, our exit is the provider. We're sourcing in these areas and these sort of houses for them in mind. But we've got plan B, C, and D should anything happen, because as we know with property, it's always good to have multiple exits, and that's the way we like to strategize this for ourselves. And again, this is our sort of model, and it doesn't potentially work for everybody, but I would say I don't know an investor that doesn't like multiple exits. So we go into the next one. This is just a little bit that I wanted to give you that I think is really important with not just supported living, but property in general. This is just an example of how we break down our builder packs and the detail that we try and go into with our refurbishments. And if any of you have done refurbs, whether it's just simple or very complex, working with builders and the amount of cogs in the wheel, there's a lot, and it can be quite complex. So we try and do as much upfront work as possible, splitting out between trades, color coordinating the builder pack to make sure we're getting that spec, to make sure we're getting that end product that we actually want. And that can go a long way to making sure that it comes in on time and comes in on budget and to the right specification, which is huge. And that's going to save you money, and it's going to make you money. This hasn't always been the way we've worked. Like anything, you learn as you go, and you build your processes and you build your systems. But again, delivering a consistent service to both the investor or the provider, or even to yourself, it really builds confidence and it builds trust. And this is a good way to do it. And this is just a little snippet, as you can see, of the color coordination and the breakdown of the trades with the prices next to it. And it's about quality control and also pricing control as well. And we hop on to the next slide. This is, again, another little inkling into how we build the builder pack and work with builders. And when we work with providers, you know, and we show them our systems, we show them how we're working, it creates a lot of trust. And again, it's not that you need to do this. I just wanted to give you a little snippet into also maybe how you could form your builder packs if you are working with builders, if you're doing your own projects and sourcing. This can be a really good way to shore up things and making sure, you know, each trade knows what they're doing. The builder knows exactly what you want and how you want it doing, and you can put in notes in these types of things. So that builder pack, again, it's gonna shore everything up from a price standpoint, from a quality standpoint, and from a specification. And there is things that naturally go wrong. It's property at the end of the day. There's things that you can't always look for, and you know, certain things that come up. But if you have a strong foundation, if you have a strong plan, and you do need to add an extra, or something else comes in that you're not, you know, weren't quite looking for, it makes it much easier to manage that and navigate it when you've got a sort of strong service that you're standing on from a planning standpoint. We'll go into the next one. This is just also an example of how we run our floor plans and what we're looking at, and it's a good sort of inkling as well into another deal that was also passed on to a supported living provider. So this is a 4-bed 2-bathroom property, and this was a 3-bed terrace with 1 bathroom, but again, you've got a decent sized double-story extension. With this one, because it was a long property, we could actually just fit 3 bedrooms in, and it made more sense financially to just split the bathroom in 2 at the back. So you've got a 4-bed 2-bath, and then we've got a kitchen and also separate dining room and living room at the front, which with this particular area, which was different to the last floor plan I showed you, this hits their criteria in terms of the space standards for your kitchen and your kitchen living, which you've got a 14.5 square meter living dining room and just over a 9 square meter kitchen. So, you know, you're looking over 23 square meters of communal space there. And this is, again, quite an easy configuration. So this wasn't a huge refurb, and that also impacts, you know, time, and the quicker you can get it handed over and cash flowing, the better it can be. This is also a way that we like to build our floor plans and put those onto the site as well. So you'll have the color coordination with the trades. And again, when I was starting out, and I've been doing this for 5 years now, I didn't have these floor plans or understanding how to do it this way. But I do wish somebody had showed me sooner. And we've built these over time. But again, it helps a lot when it comes to going on site, you know, looking at this with the builder, with the electrician, with the plumber. This should be going here, this should be going there. And it just shores everything up once again. So within any type of sourcing and deal packaging, and with this, for our business and for our side, we're working with both the investor and we're working with the provider. So your power team is huge. From one stand of your solicitor, if you are running a sourcing business or you're doing multiple transactions, you know, making sure that they can take on that caseload and understand how you work and the type of business that you're facilitating. And then financing is huge, making sure that you have a broker that actually understands supported living. They've done supported living mortgages before. Who's lending to supported living and care providers? What type of leases do they like? And doing the upfront DD with the lease is probably one of the biggest things really with the financing, because they like certain break clauses, they like certain notices, because really, it doesn't really matter the lease length. You know, anybody can say like it's a 5-year lease, it's a 7-year lease, it's a 10-year lease. But really, the thing that matters is the break clauses and notice clause. Because if you've got a 10-year lease, but it comes with a 2-month notice and no break built in, they can cancel that at any time. So understanding that from your own perspective and the lender's perspective, which for our particular niche, they like to see at least 12 months of a break, and then with a 6-month notice. So if you had, you know, a 2-year break, for example, I've found that a lot of lenders don't like that, because they like to be able to have an exit just in case anything happens of 12 months. And that can change again depending on what the tenant profile is, what the property is, and that's just what I've found. Obviously, if there's investors that are keeping this in cash, you can have a much more sort of free reign of the terms, if you will. But doing that sort of due diligence with the finance up front, making sure you can hop onto a product or buy the asset with a particular product is really, really key. And that's going to come down to, your due diligence with the provider, and also working with your broker to make sure that it's viable for financing options. So area is huge, and this is one of the biggest things that we do when we're building a blueprint with a provider that we're onboarding. So what areas are they operating in? What are the rents in those areas? How long have they been in those areas, and what type of assets have they got? Because it changes if a provider says we're in Greater Manchester. They might not be in the whole of Greater Manchester. They might be in certain councils, and they have contacts within certain councils, and they've already sort of jumped over those hurdles. So understanding where they operate, and also that they have, you know, a strong relationship, good contacts within that council area, is crucial for your own properties, and especially for us when we're sourcing, because we're sourcing to order in a way. So we want to make sure that, you know, that area is viable, and that they can check addresses that come in with their council contacts to make sure they can get the green light and all of that good stuff. So doing your due diligence, building that blueprint at the start, you know, when it comes to your DD, what areas they're in, the type of leases that they've got, the type of rents that they can offer, is all part of this sort of research that you should be doing if you're working with certain providers. And this is again just a snippet of a pipeline management system that we've built. So this is really if you're passing over multiple assets. If you're just transacting, you know, maybe once or twice a year or over a couple of quarters, you won't really need this. But with us, we build pipelines with these providers. So it's really, really important they understand what's coming on. And again, when I talk about tenant to staff ratios, this is a big factor, because if we're passing over, let's say 16 rooms in a 3 to 4 week period, they need to make sure that they can handle that from a logistical standpoint and a staffing standpoint. And getting that management system in to, you know, keep things transparent, keep things very open and communicative is really important to our business, because when we're not just looking to transact once, we want to build pipelines. And the biggest problem really for providers is stock. It's good quality stock to grow their service, to grow their support business, if you will. And we're helping with that bottleneck. But it's important, obviously, that we have that system that allows them to see, you know, what's coming on. And again, that also builds a lot of trust with these individuals too. So the process in a snapshot, and there is a lot of moving parts to this, but again, it's not rocket science. You know, it's just a process. What we're doing isn't out of this world. It is quite, I would say, accessible to everybody, but it is just really building that process in, doing that DD and doing the research. So really, you're looking for a property in a suitable area. And that work should already sort of be done up front, that you know they're in this particular location and they are already operating there. That pipeline management, if you are looking to hand over multiple assets, is really, really important. Making sure you sense check it with the provider. So for me, for example, I will be offering on multiple properties throughout the areas where we operate. And once I get something under offer, I'll give a call to my contact at the provider, whether that's one of the managers or directors, and I'll send them the address, and I'll have them check it with the council just to make sure we can get the green light. You know, there's not a homeless shelter behind it or something that we don't know about, to make sure we can sort of sense check it. And then it goes through conveyancing once it gets the green light, and then we'll sign that pre-exchange lease before we exchange and complete on the property. And then the refurb gets carried out. We project manage that. We do it to the spec. We do it to sort of how they like it, from again building that blueprint. And that takes time. You know, your first one may not be as smooth as your third one, but that's the case with anything, right? But building that open communication is important. And then the compliance check, when the refurbs about 1 to 2 weeks from completing, we'll get their compliance officer to come and check the property. We'll do a snag list, they'll do a snag list, and then that'll get passed on to our builder to make sure that they're happy with it. And again, we're shoring things up before they take it, so you know everything's dotted and crossed, and then it's handed over and we sign the head lease, and then that property gets passed to them. So that's the process in a nutshell. And it may seem like there are a lot of potential moving parts to that, and I know I may have gone a little bit quick then, but I think it's good to give you a bird's eye overview of how we're doing it and how we're sort of building these partnerships. And yeah, I hope if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Wicked. Thank you, mate. Really, really interesting. I think Matt had a question first. Matt, if you want to come and ask your question, mate.
Hi, yeah, thanks, Paul. Thanks, Matt, for that presentation. That was really useful and quite informative. I'm at the sort of the start of the journey, like I mentioned at the start of the call, but a few questions, and this might be silly. Is there a difference between social housing and assisted living?
Yes, I would always say supported living and assisted living, because I kind of feel like social housing covers everything, but I know people put their own sort of terms on it. So yeah, assisted living, from what I know the definition to be, would be a much deeper level of care. So somebody that does need day-to-day assistance, whether that's a disability, whether that's a severe case of autism, many different strands of that sort of care. But the supported living aspect is able-bodied people. You know, they can go about their day-to-day business. They might have 1 or 2 visits from the support worker per week, and that basically level of care and support is what's the real differentiator, which again that will change your lending criteria and insurance and different things depending on that tenant profile and how much support or care is being given to them.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no doubt.
I had a question, mate. So the pre-exchange lease that is signed, how secure is that how secure is that lease that they're definitely going to follow through and complete on that before you exchange?
Before we exchange. So yeah, so that's all with relationship. So for our model, there's nothing in writing during the conveyance process that they're going to take this. So it is on trust through the conveyancing process. For a lot of the time where we are currently, we do have backup, so we will have multiple providers in the areas that we operate. The big thing also is, when you're doing the due diligence, is to understand the demand and understand that the level of sort of how much they're in that council with the type of relationship and contacts that they have. Because there's certain times within the week or month that I'm getting calls from different providers saying, like, is this one ready? We've got 40 referrals from the council. We're looking to place them. And sort of understanding that demand and understanding the areas that you're operating gives you more of that confidence. But from the provider side, they can't really sign anything until the sort of property's ready close to exchange and complete, because something could happen and it could fall through. And we like it where we have certain penalties on both sides built in. So if they don't take it, there's a penalty on their side. If we don't pass it to them and we choose somebody else, we have to have a penalty on our side. So it's sort of creating that trust and bringing both parties in to have a bit of skin in the game, to say, you know, we're passing it to you and we'll take it on this date.
Yeah. And we've obviously had our conversations about my past experience of supported living many years ago as well. And I definitely agree. Communication is everything, and having a good understanding of the provider that you're working with, and that they're doing things by the book, that they're speaking directly with the councils and everything. Like I said, we had something like 7 deals fall through when it turned out that the communication lines between our provider and the who's the person at the council that they would be running it by, is it
probably the environmental health officer, or
Yeah.
one of the housing officers.
the housing officers, the communication wasn't quite clear there, and that's kind of when all the deals started falling through. And like you said, I think having that penalisation on both sides is a good idea. Ali, would you like to come and ask a question?
Yeah, hi Matt. Thank you for that talk. I think I joined in a little bit late, but my question was mainly around, sourcing the property. How do you know the specifications of a social housing company? Do you sort of have a template to work with, or do you already have the contacts with the social housing providers and are aware of what they want from a property?
Yeah, great question. So for us, we will already have had meetings and calls with the provider to understand what they want. With this type of touch point care, it's not a huge amount of specification difference to your compliance as a HMO, for example, and the signage and different things that go along with it, and the safety elements and the fire risk assessment and all that kind of stuff. There can be extra signs that they may want, like mind your head or step signs and different things like that. Some of them want a particular type of size of bed and things like that. So we just do that work up front and basically say, we'll do it to HMO regulations. Do you have anything that you would like us to put into the property? So it's sort of building that blueprint up front from there. And it's quite similar to every sort of provider that's doing touch point care, but they'll just have maybe their own little quirks and certain things that should be locked up, for example, which you wouldn't necessarily do for a professional HMO. So they have a bit more control over certain things in the property. So it's just about having that conversation up front.
So just to be clear, at the point of sourcing, you have an idea of what type of property is going to work for a few of the social housing providers that you have on your books.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. We'll be going into areas with a particular provider in mind, and the space, the size of that property, and also what we think we can do with it. We'll be reverse engineering it basically for that specification.
Okay, so it's best to actually start with having conversations with the social housing provider in terms of what they want before even going out to do some viewings on some properties.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
I think, with this, when it comes to, let's just say normal sourcing, people always say, should I get the investor or should I get the property first? And there's different, thought processes on that. But for this, because it could be that you're doing viewings, but on that particular area for the council, they don't want any more supported living or HMOs there. So you're sort of maybe wasting your time doing the viewings anyway. So it's also about, what areas can you go, what areas can't you? Have the council communicated anything with the provider that says no more properties in this particular postcode? So that's also part of the DD due diligence, to make sure you're also not wasting your time.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Lou has asked, what would your advice be for someone wanting to start out in this sector?
I would say network with providers as much as you can. And I'll be honest, it's not the easiest thing to do in terms of building that relationship, but it just takes time and some consistency. So things you can do for that is one, go on the government site and look at the registered providers and understand where they are, where they're operating, what sort of stock that they want, and then try and liaise with your local council, try and get in with housing officers, environmental officer, the HMO officer. You know, who are you working with? Are you working with any providers that are taking on HMOs, and try and get some names and some contacts that way. Investors, there will be investors in your area that are doing this. If you're in a decently built up area of the UK, try and pick their brain, who they're working with, maybe how you can help them, and building that contact base just through networking. But at least for me with this side, it does start with the provider and getting those contacts and sort of understanding some sort of the blueprint, even if you don't feel like you have it all together, and then you can sort of build your steps that way.
Thank you.
Alex, did you have a question?
I did. He kind of answered it a bit already, but it was just about planning and sourcing properties in like Article 4 areas. So would you speak to the council and see where they might potentially pass the planning on HMOs, or how would you go about it?
Yeah, very good question. There's a few different areas when it comes to planning, support and care, and doing the research into what planning position that property is going to fall into. For a lot of providers that are doing touchpoint care, you're still going to fall under C4. So you still will need to go for planning. We were looking at one in Article 4, and we did a pre-application. So when we were going through conveyancing, you can do a pre-app that you can ask and send plans and sort of shore up with the council. Do you think this will get planning? Like, how's it looking in that area? Obviously, you can do your own research around how condensed the HMOs are in that particular, how dense the HMOs are in that particular space. But you can also do a pre-application to understand if you could get planning, and then obviously turn it into a HMO. There are certain organizations, depending on the care and support that they give, there is a special banding in the council called C3B, and that is something which is basically its own banding. So sometimes you can bypass the Article 4 direction if it's going to sit in this particular banding, but you need to understand and you need to verify with the provider that they can achieve this particular banding, because obviously you don't want to buy a property and then you're like, bugger, I can't obviously put it into there. So you do need to be sure, and it is often a deeper type of either more intense support or more intense care, which allows it to sit into that banding. Like, for example, if somebody's living in the property with 3 other individuals, for example, that can change the banding. But it is council to council, and these organizations have to tender to the councils in terms of, you know, what type of support and care that they're giving. But for, let's say, the properties that we're doing, from a planning standpoint and speaking to planning professionals on these, because we've looked at many different properties in and out of Article 4, it does fall under C4, so you still would need to get planning. But again, it's always going to be organization specific. So just do your homework on making sure what type of use class that property can fall into.
Thank you.
Just moving on from that one, mate. Matt said, so you need planning permission, but do you need a HMO license?
Another good question. So again, it depends what organization you're working with. With registered providers that I was talking about, you are onto something which is called an exempt status. So the exemption is around the licensing and also potentially with certain rents. So they can sometimes get increased rents because of the type of organization, the type of support that they're giving, meaning you can get a buffer on the local housing allowance, which can obviously make the property stack much better from an investment standpoint. So if you're working with an RP, or some of the organizations sit under the umbrella of an RP. So they'll get audited and quality checked by the registered provider. And that basically means that they can get certain exemptions that they wouldn't necessarily get if they weren't under the umbrella and working with that registered provider. So in that standpoint, they would handle the submission of the licensing. So let's say the property is complete, you're handing it over to either a registered provider or an organization that is working with an RP, then they would deal with the submission in terms of the licensing, and you wouldn't have to get involved with it. And I work with both. So on the other side, if they weren't exempt, then you would need to get the license yourself, and the provider would need to see the license, and they would need to submit that to the council. So it is dependent on who you're working with, but sometimes no, sometimes yes.
Oh, last two questions here. So can mortgage lenders be funny about lending for this strategy?
We've been fine. There's currently 7 lenders that will lend on this particular type of property and tenant profile and organization. So I'm talking about 4 to 6 bedroom HMOs with Touchpoint Care. So as long as you're doing it to regulations, you're getting building control sign off for the work that you're doing, it's up to the space standards and all of that good stuff. And you have the head lease signed and you've already done the due diligence, because at least for us, and I would say for you guys, if you are going to do this, just do it up front. You basically know that a lender will lend to you with the lease that you've got, because obviously there's many lenders for HMOs now. It's more around the supported living aspect in the leases, but as long as you have a good broker who can send the lease to a couple of providers, send it to their legal teams or business development managers, and make sure that they're happy with the lease. And I've had it before where that lender and that legal teams actually come back to me and told me to tweak certain things. They've told me to tweak the notice because this is what's in their criteria. So if I want to go for lending with that particular finance company, then this is the criteria that they're setting. And again, that comes down to a good broker and a good professional team. But there is lending products, and there is also what seems like more appetite to lend on this type of investment, because I think it is growing and they're getting more demand for the products.
Wicked. And last question, do you always have to furnish the property or add white goods to it, or does that vary with provider?
It does vary with provider. For all of the ones that we work with, we furnish and provide white goods, and then they maintain and replace them all within the 5 years, and they have to hand it back within the same condition that it was passed over. So there are some that will take it unfurnished. I know like Serco will take it unfurnished. There are other providers that will. But yeah, it'll come down to sort of the negotiation, how they like to do things. Obviously, if you think of it from a provider standpoint, it's quite easy for them to dress it, and bring bedding and different things. Not as easy to order furniture and all of that good stuff. So most of them will like you to do that, and it's in a sense a service that we're quite happy to do, with the rents that we get, which are very competitive, and obviously just making it easier for the provider. and for them to fill it quicker, because they're also running a business. You know, they're charities and interest companies, but they are running a care and support business. So, you know, the quicker they can get people in and servicing them, it only helps their organization as well.
Well, very last question. There is one more, and I think it's quite a good one. The lending that you're getting, is that to purchase the property or is that a refinance?
We've done both. Yeah. So we've bought on a mortgage, which was happy with supported living. And then we've bought cash and then refinanced out. So when you are buying on a mortgage, you won't be able to buy every property, because it depends on the configuration and how much work you would need to do to make that into a 6-bed HMO, for example. So if you're doing a big kitchen diner and it's not configured in sort of an easy way, you may struggle a little bit, because when the valuer goes round, he's going to think, you know, you're going for like a 6-bed HMO mortgage here, but it's not even close. So for that one in Oldham, for example, that I showed you, but I don't think I showed you the floor plan. It was already incredibly close to chopping it up to a 6-bed HMO. We only had to put one stud wall up, and then obviously fire doors and all the other good stuff. So it was very easy to get a mortgage on it. So it will be dependent. And we have done both, so it is very much possible. But yeah, it'll come down to the layout, the valuer, and then what you're going for in terms of bedrooms.
Wicked. Thank you, mate. It's been an absolute eye opener, and I think everyone's probably got a lot of value out of it.
Definitely an eye opener. I'm very interested.
Where can people reach you, mate? What's the best platform?
Instagram or LinkedIn. Yeah, so Instagram is Matthew Kenneth Sheriff, and Kenneth with a K, and LinkedIn is the same. My name's Matthew Kenneth Sheriff on there as well. So yeah, if you want, please give me a message, and if you do have any further questions, you know, drop me a voice note. Happy to reply.
I'm going to be sending out the recording over the next few days anyway, so I'll put your handles on there as well. Just a quick one before we finish up. For anyone that is new to us, so you can work with us. As I said, we've got the Success Community, which is obviously the 2 webinars, and the WhatsApp group, which is charged at £49 a month. We also do one-to-one mentoring as well. Matt is actually one of my mentees, and we've been working together for a couple of months now, Matt, haven't we? So that's been going really well. It's focused all around sales negotiation, property education, business structuring, branding, social media, and selling techniques. So there's not a lot that we don't cover. And they come in hourly packages, and we can build those packages around whatever it is that we need to focus on with you. So anyone that is interested in finding out a bit more how you can work with us, then again, I'll send an email out with everything on, but you can just scan that QR code as well. Matt, thank you so much, mate. It's been an absolute eye-opener. Really enjoyed it. I hope everyone else has. And as I said, email will go out over the next couple of days with all Matt's details and the recording. And I'll see you all soon.
Thanks,
everyone. Cheers for your time, guys.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Take care. See you later. Bye.
Bye.